Hey guys, All in Crypto here, and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, for another YouTube video. I hope you've all had a wonderful Wednesday so far, despite what's going on in the cryptocurrency markets. Good for some, bad for many. We are going to be talking about that in this daily cryptocurrency market update, and this is going to be a slightly different one. We're not going to be looking at the news necessarily. We're going to be looking at Bitcoin and where it's potentially going. Is Bitcoin about to go through a slammer all the way from Alabama? We're going to be talking about it in this video. We're going to be looking at the Bitcoin long-term regression bands and where we're currently at, which is a very, very crucial point. We're going to show you historically what this potentially has meant. Remember, nothing is set in stone, guys. Nobody is more bullish on the cryptocurrency space. We're going to be looking at how the equity markets may tell us and give us the direction that Bitcoin is now heading in, and we're going to be using the Market Sniper's tweet to illustrate this, as he has essentially called for a head and shoulders across many of your equity indexes, and we're going to be talking about this because I think this is coming, guys. And ultimately, you know, crypto and its correlation with the Nasdaq and the S&P is quite telling in regards to the structures that they're in and where they're potentially moving towards. Also, we'll look at the dollar, which I think is actually going to take out the 2020 highs and the 2017 or 2016 highs and go on for a run. This has a lot to do with the euro. Bringing up our bond yield curve between the 10s and the 2s. This signals some sort of a capitulation event down the line. Now, that doesn't have to happen instantly, but one thing that I'm quite sure about is it will happen. And we do know that things are getting more compressed. These cycles and the length of time between the yield curve and something happening within markets. The last one was in 2019. And it didn't take long, I think around about 6 months before we had the March 2020 spiller. So there's lots to look at. I want to just be reconfirming my position. You know, you guys know I am all in crypto. Yeah? Yes, we have an allocation of stablecoins looking to capture and actually add more cryptocurrencies when the price is right. And I do think there's some amazing opportunities to be had. And I'm going to share one with you very briefly because things seem quite doom and gloom at the moment. And that is Chainlink and where I'm going to be looking to buy it. I hold a lot of Link. I haven't bought or sold any Chainlink since 2018. It's done very well for me, and I think it still has a long way to go. And this is one thing, you know, there's quite a bearish outlook at the moment, you know, given everything that's going on. And people are often very disheartened by this. And I understand it, guys. You guys know I was around in 2017, had the absolute pleasure and joy of going through 2018. And the reason that I stayed in crypto was really because I understand this space. I understand what I'm looking at when we're talking about blockchain technology and where it's going. It is the future, guys. That is honestly what I believe. I think it's going to play a huge role, just like any other technical technology or technical revolution. In the same way that we're all communicating over the internet right now, you're probably on a PC or your smartphone, which is just a PC. You probably drive cars, which is a technological revolution. Use telephones, which is a technological revolution. Blockchain is no different, and that's something always important to keep in the back of your mind. Even though we're having some volatile time periods, and that actually, to be honest, could be quite expected given the fact that from March 2020's lows, you know, Bitcoin went up 1,600%. A pullback from that, given everything that's currently going on, isn't really too out of the ordinary or out of the question or unreasonable or rational. And I do actually could see Bitcoin coming off lower here. Remember, this is Bitcoin. Don't ever trade leverage. Certainly not in these time positions. If you're going to trade leverage, do it on altcoins, and don't trade leverage full stop would be what I would say. Not advice. You guys do whatever you want. But where Bitcoin currently is right now isn't an amazing spot. And you can see the last two times that we've been where we currently are, you know, in this regression sort of bands. And in a downtrend, typically, we'll move this out of the way, it's led to quite a steep drop to the downside. This could be on the table. And you can see here, we do a similar thing. We kind of come down, we retest it, we bounce, and then we eventually break it. And the macro backdrop, I personally feel, supports further downward continuation within a downtrend that we're currently in for Bitcoin. And looking at this paints quite a broad picture of where we are potentially and where we're going. Now, what I'd like to see, and we have called for maybe a capitulation event, which is a nice, sharp, steep sort of pullback. and then continuation. That's something I would like to see. And I actually could see crypto recovering on the back end of this year. It is my opinion that we don't see 2-year prolonged bear markets anymore. So typically, we've been moved on the Bitcoin 4-year cycle theory, and we have these kind of 2-year bear markets. I think these cycles are a lot more short and sweet, in the sense that we go on more of a kind of Amazon after the dot-com boom, or many of your other tech stocks after the dot-com boom, which is, instead of these big, long, drawn-out 4-year cycles, it's something like this. Something like that, where we kind of find a range moving forward, but continuously go up. And Bitcoin is bullish. It's a macro bull, guys. There's no way of denying that. What markets go through in the short term, if you take a long-term time horizon, it's really irrelevant what happens on the short term, because there's no doubt in my mind that crypto isn't going to excel. When we look at our market cap, I think we're at $1.7, $1.6 trillion. That is nothing in the grand scheme of things. And money just doesn't evaporate. And I think the tides will turn for the cryptocurrency market. But right now, and this is the S&P, the NASDAQ, and the, of course, Bitcoin chart, the correlation is just evident. And given where your equities are, given the fact that you literally have the Federal Reserve coming out and saying, look, guys, we are upping interest rates with the expectations of taking the heat out of markets, i.e. causing markets to sell off, so that is one way that they deem to kill off inflation. I think they're going to kill off the wealth effect. I don't think they're going to kill off inflation, because there is still a huge supply chain issue. But it's very, very interesting what's going on. And when we look, and this is from the Market Sniper, this is the NASDAQ Composite Index that is calling for a head and shoulders on. I think I can see it. And given where we are, and if you look at the NASDAQ and you look at many of your indexes, they're looking weak, and they're actually setting up typical bear market structures moving forwards. This is the S&P 500 ETF, which is just really similar to the S&P, the Dow Jones Industrial Average. And this, of course, is your iShares high yield corporate bond ETF. So debt, I think, is still set to fall. That's what it's highlighting here. We've spoken about the debt markets in great detail. Some people still don't understand them, so we'll try and keep it light here and really just compare Bitcoin, where it's currently at, with the equity market, which in my opinion looks like it's going to continue to fall. We know there's a huge correlation that. So what does it mean by Bitcoin given where we currently are? And I want to drop down to some time frames. Also, we've got, I know it sounds very doom and gloom, guys, but you've got to be realistic. You've got to, for me to come on here and go, yep, 100K in the next 3 months, it's not that time period. It's not the time to be mega bullish right now. It's the time to be conservative, watch this market, and then act accordingly. And that's what we're going to talk about. I'll bring up Link as one of my buys moving forwards. I'll give you guys that. I've been in Link for a long time, and it's something I plan on accumulating a lot more of, given just how utilized it is within the crypto space. In fact, you actually largely wouldn't have DeFi without it. So let's drop down the time frames for Bitcoin. You got to remember, Bitcoin's only one side of the story. You have the dollar, which is actually looking incredibly strong. The dollar index is basically pegged nearly 50% against the euro, which is getting killed right now. And he's going to start running lows, in my opinion, and probably continue to fall. Doesn't mean, by the way, when I'm calling for, and what we're going to do actually is take these off we'll get rid of all this. We'll get rid of this. And we're going to dive down the time frames. And one thing that I pointed out, and if you guys aren't already following me on Twitter, guys, head over to my Twitter. @RealAllInCrypto is the handle that you can type in. Make sure you come over here and give me a follow, guys, because we do post a lot more timely updates on here. It's very easy for me to give updates that can be short and sweet. But when we look at this move here yesterday, and we said this, by the way, we called this back here. I just think that, there's a kind of sell-off overnight for us in the UK. You get a kind of people looking to buy the dip and long, try to range trade, and then that gets squashed even more. That's what I think is likely to happen. So if we look at what's currently going on, one thing that I highlighted was this upward move here. Look how, it got retraced a lot faster. And then you can clearly see your traders stepping in here and trying to buy this and prop it up and open longs based off potentially previous support and resistance. But if you look at the time period that it took for this move to the upside, it was erased just as fast. And for me, that shows downside weakness. We also have, the failing of, What we'll do is switch it to the daily. The failing of this, we're now below it. And, you know, it doesn't look great. Doesn't mean that Bitcoin can't have a pump up, but I think the overall macro backdrop, and we know it's what's driving the markets at the moment, is going to continue to drive Bitcoin. And I don't think, going back to our bands, that we've potentially seen, you know, what one thing I'm looking for at the moment is what I would like to actually see, and I know this is going to sound very negative, is some sort of a very sharp and steep capitulation event that really excites people back into the markets. You know, there are definitely, I mean, if you look, for example, over here, you can see in this uptrend, we actually come up and we retest it and we actually use it as a spring. But that's in an uptrend. Again, similar thing over here, uptrend. In a downtrend, though, it does the exact opposite. And I would argue that this somewhat is a downtrend. There is the argument that this is just one big continuation structure, which is great, but my overall bias is that Bitcoin is moving to the downside. And where that exactly is going to be, you know, you always want to look for your prior lows. So there is a range trade that is very obvious that Bitcoin's currently in. And of course, you want to look here. So around about the 30K region, I could actually see as very plausible. What does this mean for altcoins? Well, altcoins are going to get hit probably harder. Some will do better than others. But when markets do this, they really purify themselves. So the main objective of what I'm trying to get across here is just be prepared, guys. Just because I'm saying this, 100% doesn't mean that it's going to happen. In fact, you know, it may not, and we may go on to make another leg, and this may be one big continuation structure. But I think given where we are seasonally as well, you got to remember we're moving into May. There is a huge saying out there, sell in May and come back in St. Leger's Day. This is to do with big hedge funds and big fund managers actually taking holiday. They don't want to leave risk on the table, so they typically close and come back to it after their holidays. Seasonally, there is an effect on markets. And that's something on an already weak market. When you couple all the factors together and you correlate them, it paints a picture. And that's the picture that we want to look at. We want to share with you guys moving forwards. Now, very doom and gloom. It's not, guys. There's huge opportunities to be had here. This, of course, we have spoken about the bond yield curve and what that may mean in great detail before, so I'll skip over it. But there are going to be huge opportunities. Chainlink is one. There are also a mass amount of other opportunities that are going to present themselves within the cryptocurrency market. And this is the buy zone that I'm looking for Chainlink. I can see this falling wedge playing out and actually coming to fruition. So can you see this? Something like that before we get that continuation. And I'm going to be trying to buy in this zone. And there's many other cryptocurrencies that I am going to be sharing with you that I'm also going to look to accumulate for the future that have technical, fundamental, and sound reasoning behind why I think they're going to do very well. And just if this does play out the way I think it is, it will. You know, you're looking at a huge potential break to the upside that's going to take you well back. You know, easy 10x, I think you're going to get from many of these, and then maybe set up more continuation as we see the next wave of crypto adoption take place, which I think is largely going to be regulatory driven. But that is really all I have for you in this video. I didn't want it to be particularly too bearish, just some things that I'm looking at, that I'm thinking about. You know, my overall position is very much in crypto. Yes, I have stable coins sat on the sidelines. They're all earning APYs on various DeFi farming protocols that we're going to be bringing to you. I did say I was going to get some stablecoin farms out, and we are actually going to be illustrating those. You can also have exposure to the property market via crypto, to the stock market, to the gold and silver market if you want. Then we're going to show you all these little tricks, how to be all in crypto but not be so risk adverse. The majority, 60% plus of my portfolio, is still sat in these volatile crypto assets. And the reason being is because they're there for the future onwards. 40% right now, less than 40% would be sat in stablecoin secure assets that don't move in such a volatile manner. All on crypto, all on a blockchain though, that I'm going to actually move back into the crypto space when the opportunity presents itself. And hopefully you guys are going to be along for that journey. I'm just telling you what I see. I know people don't like the bearish outlook on things. And I know there's this kind of contrarian view that people take where they go, well, not everybody can be right. That's not always the case. Sometimes everybody can have a good feel of things, and it's often a front runner to what's to come. So watch these guys. If you're looking for it, type in long term regression Bitcoin. check out where we currently are and let me know what your guys' thoughts are for yourself. But that is really all I have for in this video. Try not to be too bearish, too pessimistic. Crypto isn't going anywhere. Remember that. Again, what I said at the start of the video about it being a technological revolution, keep that in your mind, and there's going to be some great opportunities moving forwards. And remember, this is just speculation. It may not happen. I'm just presenting the case that what we have right now isn't an amazing setup for a flourishing bull market. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesdays.